Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. I'm Katie and this is Caris, and we are two young champions for Time to Change. And today we're going to have a chat about this year's Time to Talk Day theme, which is the power of small. So we're going to just be having a chat about the theme itself, but also we're going to be trying to share some personal experiences of moments that have been small but have had a really big impact on our mental health. So hopefully you'll come away from today with some practical tips and suggestions as well for things that you can actually do. So first of all, we'll introduce ourselves. So Caris, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, okay. I'm Caris, obviously. I am just 24 and I've just recently graduated from my degree. And I started experiencing kind of mental ill health when I began university, although there were signs much more before that.
Yeah.
Most of my issues surround kind of anxiety, mood swings, and a bit of substance abuse in my past as well. And yes, I've been involved with Time to Change since 2018 when the programme started.
Lovely. Thank you. And I'm Katie. I joined Time to Change as a young champion at the same time as Caris in 2018. And my mental health experience, in a nutshell, it's hard to say things really shortly, isn't it? But is that I started having severe panic attacks when I was at uni. And then they dominated my life for years afterwards, unfortunately. But one of the reasons I wanted to have this chat together today is I really love this year's theme of the power of small. And one reason is that over those years, I've done some really big, scary, difficult things like going to therapy and quitting a job that wasn't good for me. But also, there's been way more small moments that have impacted my mental health journey hugely. So, yeah, I'm really excited. I love the theme. What do you think of it?
Likewise, I think it's a great theme, and it's also just so relatable to in this kind of pandemic situation as well, because we are so far from each other and we're a lot more aware this year of mental health and problems kind of people might be facing in lockdown. And so it's a really good way to kind of share tips about what has helped us and how we've helped other people, and hopefully, yeah, we can spread the message and loads of people will be doing small kind things for each other.
Yes,
That's what
hopefully that's what we want everyone watching to do. Hopefully today is just one small thing that will make a big difference. Um, as well as that, we're going to mainly focus today, I think, on how to support other people who you think might be struggling, or just in general, how to support people in small ways. But I know, Caris, you wanted to touch on also small things that you can do if you're not well as well.
Yes. Well, now you've put me on the spot. Small things that you can do if you don't feel well is just kind of, I would say, you don't have to. And I think a lot of people think this when you talk about mental health or mental illness, is that you don't have to tell everybody everything all at the same time. You don't just have to kind of bam come out with a diagnosis or anything like that. It can be so small, just dropping hints every now and then.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be directly related. You don't have to just say like, oh, by the way, I have anxiety or something like that. It can be so general. You could say, oh, I've been feeling a bit low in lockdown. Like this week, lockdown's really hit me. I felt like as soon as that 100,000 deaths was announced in the UK, like that just hit me right in my feelings. And you know what? I just said to somebody on my socially distanced walk, how did you feel when that number was announced? Because that really hit me and really affected me. And that's how you talk about mental health. Like you don't have to talk about your anxiety or anything like that. It's purely just talking about emotions and how things make you feel. And as soon as you kind of say something little like that, you slowly but surely you become more comfortable with it, and little by little, that's my tips.
No, I totally agree. If you're ill, I think there is a feeling of I need to tell everyone everything to be sort of making a difference, which isn't true. Like you say, it's just being open is about those small moments where you're just being honest, and that doesn't have to be a huge confession. It can be just, like you said, just saying you're low and just being honest about how you've been feeling recently.
Yes, exactly. And I'm sure we'll be giving lots of other tips throughout on kind of how to express those feelings as well, or what you can do to kind of start to let people in.
Yeah, definitely. So I think for starters, we're going to do examples of, we've been asked to share some examples of times where small moments have had a big impact on our mental health. So Caris, have you had a little think about this? Have you got any examples of something you've done or something someone else has done that's made a difference?
Yes, I do. And I'm going to start with one that kind of combines both.
Lovely.
Because yes. So in lockdown, I love Instagram, and I decided to kind of start talking to my friends on Instagram. Yeah, my real friends, not the ones that you just kind of mutually follow. And yeah, just kind of started vlogging a bit about my day on there, and just being really open and honest about how I've been feeling throughout the pandemic, the ups and the downs. And I have really connected with people, and that has been incredibly rewarding for my own mental health, and I'm sure other people's as well.
Mm.
Um, I've been expressing my emotions. I think that is a help. Like for me, that's quite a healthy way to do it. I think often a lot of people feel trapped. I mean, I know for sure that one of the hardest hurdles I found when I started talking about my mental health was actually telling my family.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm much more comfortable talking to my friends. So yes, hence that. And because we can't really see each other much anymore, it just is a nice way to kind of keep people in the loop, etc.
Yeah.
And then since I started doing that and I was talking about my emotions and everything, I'm quite honest on there. You know, if I'm crying, you can have a video of it. That's fine with me. And then it's so nice to just see how many people message me, because honestly, messages from friends or like anybody really can just really pull me out of such a dark place. And when I put these videos on and I'm like really really upset, I see how many people kind of message me and stuff, and I think actually, you know what, I'm not alone in all
Yeah.
this lockdown mess. You know, everybody is feeling similar and things like that. And then I think it's really helping other people as well, just from the kind of feedback that I'm getting in the messages, just being like, it's not only kind of entertainment and they're kind of looking forward to seeing what I've been getting up to in the day, but they see that I'm upset about certain things, or I'm also having up moments and down moments, or really struggling post uni and all everything going on. And I think that just reassures people and shows that the way they're feeling is valid too, and that they're not completely alone.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my main big example, really.
It's a great example. I follow
Yeah.
you on Instagram and I agree with everything you've said. I
Thank you.
And also I think social media rightfully in some cases gets a lot of bad rep. Um, but actually now more than ever, I get so much connection through social media at the moment. And like you say, just those messages sometimes, if you're having a rough time or even just a rough day, can make so much difference. Just having some interaction and people chatting to you makes you feel so much less alone. And actually, a lot of people I follow on Instagram, the reason I follow them is for what you've said, because they're honest and it's not sort of a polished version. It's actually being honest about how you're feeling, and making connections with people and letting them know that it's okay.
Yes, absolutely. And it ties in quite nicely with my example, which is more kind of what I've done specifically to help other people
Yeah,
who may or may not be struggling. I mean, you never know, do you?
no,
Really. And that's the heart. That's quite like, you know, that's what kills with mental illness really, is the fact that a lot of
you
times you
don't
just
know.
can't see it.
Yeah,
Anyway, what I do is I have started this thing relatively recently where if I'm thinking about somebody, just randomly, in my day, I don't know, I'm cooking dinner or something, and I think about someone, I just text them and I just say, "Hey, this is really random. I hope you're well, but I just randomly thought of you today, and I'm not too sure why, but I hope you're well, and I thought you might like to know this," and things. Um, and yeah, I think that is so nice just to make people feel as though, they haven't been forgotten by their friends who are or out, who they can't see in lockdown, especially because like a lot of my friends don't live where I live as well. We're all over the country and I can't see them. And it's just really nice sometimes to just kind of think, well, actually, you know, Karen has talked to her mum about me today, or
Yeah, I'm
and
in someone's thoughts.
you're in somebody's thoughts and like you're
Yeah,
part of somebody else's life. And I think a lot of people
yeah,
need that reminder sometimes, especially when you're trapped in the house, is
yeah,
just
and which feels so isolating.
yes. Like I can't imagine if I hadn't done that on Instagram, I don't know how, I think I would have been in a much worse place mentally just from
Yeah,
not being connected to my friends. And I've made new friends since kind of doing this because
yeah,
I had some people on Instagram who are kind of in the kind of mental health community advocates and stuff who I don't really
mm,
speak to in real life, really.
yeah,
And I just added them and stuff, and now we talk, and it's like I class them as my
so
friends. I've
lovely.
never met them, and this is exactly what I'm on about when you just think of somebody because you never know when you're thinking of somebody how low they might be, and that could be the thing that keeps them here or keeps
Mhm.
them safe or reassured or just not forgotten. So yeah,
That's so lovely. And I think it's really important what you're saying about if you think of someone, just let them know. You don't need to have anything to say. I think it's true that you don't always know if someone's ill, but especially when you do know, I think people feel like there's a pressure to say the right thing, or if you're contacting them, you need to have something worthwhile to say. Whereas it's lovely on down days when someone messages you just saying, thinking of you, oh, it's the best. And you're totally right. Other way around, people who I don't know what state they're in, but sometimes I'll text something like that and they'll reply saying, oh my gosh, I'm having the worst week. This has really made my day.
yeah,
Yeah, never underestimate reaching out to people.
no, exactly. How about yours, Katie?
So I wanted, as we're young champions. We're not as young as we once were, but we are. And my example is relative for everybody, but especially to any parents who are watching. So I want to do an example of my wonderful mummy. So when I was very ill, I have missed many parties and family events over the years, um, just because I've been too ill to go. And when I was really ill, I hadn't spoken to my family yet. Like you say, that can often be the hardest for people. Um, and so people didn't know I was struggling with my mental health. I hadn't had that conversation, which meant that whenever it happened, my mum would just make up an excuse on the day. Um, Little white lies or vague, she's just not very well, but not telling the whole truth. And then one year I had to miss a big family Christmas gathering. And I was having an awful panic attack, but I overheard mum in the other room ringing my family, and I just overheard her saying that I was having a really bad panic attack and we couldn't come and she was going to stay home and look after me. And that sounds obvious, but actually, because that was the first time I had heard her tell family the truth, that made such a huge difference to me. And it was validating of my experience. It made me feel completely supported by my mum, knowing that she wasn't ashamed of me, wasn't worried what other people would think. She just spoke about it like she would any physical illness. Um, yeah, and that has stayed with me. And that was one of the first things I thought about was the power of small, in that that was huge to me, but actually all that happened there was telling the truth. And that can be huge for someone who is ill to hear other people talking about mental health as if it's not that big a deal and not something to be embarrassed about.
Yes, exactly. It really helps with the stigma as well because
Yeah,
you're not covering it up or thinking, acting like kind of having panic attacks is not a valid reason
yeah,
to not take part in things, etc.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, instead of kind of coming up with other more reasonable excuses to
Yeah,
finally have it. the truth out for you, it just must have been a bit of a relief to know that you're no longer hiding in secret.
Yeah, which I think you don't necessarily realize you are, but
Yeah.
then when someone opens it up for you, that opens up all the conversations, and without realizing, you're more open then.
Yes, exactly. That's how I felt before I kind of started speaking publicly about my mental health.
Yeah.
I think as soon as I did start to open up to people and stuff, it just helped me immensely. And I don't know how I managed to kind of, it was obvious to a lot of people around me that I wasn't very well, but I was keeping myself in that kind of lie of I'm not really ill and wasn't acknowledging it. And as soon as I started speaking out, my world has kind of opened up to me, and yeah, made a lot more kind of newer friendships and stronger friendships for it as well, and just in general really. So if you are teetering on the edge of kind of like, well, I'm not sure, if I open up, like, is it going to, is it
Risky.
backfire, is it going to be
Yeah.
worse, yada yada, like, yeah, I would personally say that from my experiences, it's so much better to just be open and honest. And I'm not sure if you agree, Katie. She's nodding. Yeah, I think a lot of people who I know who are very similar to me and talk publicly about it do agree as well.
Oh, completely. Yeah.
So yeah, and like I
Yeah.
said, just start with the small hints and then build up.
Yeah.
Yeah, just do what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, because on the flip side of what you're talking about, as in if you're not well, also taking those brave steps, like these days, I don't, unless I need to, I don't necessarily tell people this is what's happened to me and these are my symptoms. It'll just be the first time they hear about it is maybe they'll say, how are you? And I'll say, oh, I'm exhausted. I had an awful panic attack last night. And that, it
Yeah,
doesn't need to be a big thing. It is just, but the reason I can do that is because other people have made me feel like it's nothing to be ashamed of. So I think that is a really big tip, is in the language you use as well as your actions, try as hard as you can to set an example of honesty and openness.
yeah, absolutely.
Lovely.
Great. Did you have an example of
Yes.
things you've done to help? No, yes, things you've done to help other people.
Yeah, this one is weirdly harder, even though I do know I do things all the time. So my favorite thing, because I'm an old lady, is that I love snail mail, as you call it. Yeah, sending stuff in the post. I'm a big fan of sending physical post. It's a dying art form. I'm very passionate about it. But yeah, if you can, I strongly recommend it. So I've just sent some posts out today, and I also got a message from someone I sent post to recently saying it's completely made their day. They haven't had post in years and it's really brightened their day. And it doesn't have to be like a long essay. I often, like to my grandma, I will send postcards that literally say, I love you, and that's it. But it's so much nicer getting something physical in the post. And it's similar to what you're saying. It just lets someone know that you're thinking of them, but also there's something really tangible about seeing someone's handwriting, and that they've taken the time to do it. So yeah, that's my number one go-to for other people, is sending post.
Yeah, I agree. It's so nice to send posts and also to receive it. Like, how nice it feels to receive, and you just think like, I want to do that for someone else. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely agree there. I do love a snail mail as well.
So we've also got some other young champions who have sent us in some examples. So first of all, we've got an example from the lovely Emma, which Caris is going to read out for us, if you're happy to, Caris.
Yeah, I'm just going to share my screen. So Emma says, a conversation that impacted someone else. A girl younger than me had problems attending school due to her anxiety. She often would go into school and miss lessons. She was really struggling and wanted to start going to school again, so I asked her if she wanted some help. I made a plan for her on how she could go back to school, and we set small goals. For example, to go into school for an hour this day, then 4 hours the next day, and we worked our way up. I checked in on her only 5 minutes every day to see how she was getting on and speaking to her about her worries for the next day. Around 5 months later, she managed to go into school nearly every day and feels more comfortable at school. The reason why I chose this for the power of small conversations was because it had a huge positive impact on her, and I was only speaking to her for 5 to 10 minutes a day. And then Emma says, a conversation that impacted myself. In year 9, I spent a lot of my lunch times and break times alone in toilet cubicles or sitting outside the classroom corridors. I remember a girl from a higher year than me who came up to me one day and asked me if I was okay and if I wanted to talk. This really impacted me because I felt like someone cared, and I remember going home that day feeling more positive. So if you see a girl on the bench alone, ask her if she is okay. It may have the same impact on her as it did on me. I chose this for the power of small conversations, as just that small question had such a massive impact on me.
Lovely. Thank
Yeah.
you, Emma.
Yes, Emma's good because she has covered school as well. And I don't have much experience of experiencing mental health problems at school. So it's really good to hear it from a much younger perspective, because school can be toxic. I remember like some of the girls at school I went with school with me were just horrible people, and you know, something like that could and can make a massive difference. So yes, do. And you often think, don't you, oh, I wonder if she is okay, but I shouldn't really say anything because I don't know her.
Yeah.
But why not?
Yeah, why
what's
not?
the worst what is the worst that's going to happen? Like they either say, yeah, I'm fine, and leave and leave,
Yeah.
or they kind of cry on you, which
Yeah.
is not too bad, because I think that often people don't want to approach people who they know are struggling because they don't know how to react if they do say,
yeah, what if actually they do open up?
Emotional, because that's exactly what I'm like. I know if I said to Katie, how are you doing? And she's like, oh, I'm having a panic attack. I'd be like, I don't know what, like inside. But and that's exactly, but as someone on the other side of that, who's been on the other side of that as well, I know that people can't do much to help.
Yeah, you're not expected to save them.
Yes, I'm literally pretty chill with, that. And I know that people can't, and I know people can't help or do what they think they should be doing. But it's just sometimes nice to just have someone there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's not perfect or you're not sort of trained or anything, like who cares, It's just nice to feel not alone.
Yeah, I totally agree. And from that second one, like you're saying, I think the big takeaway for me is I think people feel like it's not their place as well to go and speak to someone if you're not that close to them. It is your place. I'm telling you now, everybody, it's your place. It's everybody's place. You don't need to be super close or best friends with someone to make a difference. Just asking how someone's doing is lovely always. And like you just said, like, what's the worst that can happen? Not a lot, really. And also from the first one, the main takeaway from that for me about like the power of small is checking in regularly, but in a little way, is really powerful. And it doesn't necessarily need to be one big heart to heart with someone that changes their life. Actually, more realistically, it's the opposite. And checking in with someone regularly, just for 5 minutes, is going to mean that they know that you're consistent and that they know someone's there for them, which is way more meaningful.
Yes, no, I totally agree. And I often find that if people kind of call me to a meeting, or say about a conversation about mental health, I know
intervention,
that's kind of like more than half an hour, I'm like, I feel very overwhelmed, and like because I'm like, oh, what do I say? Like, but if it's only 5 minutes, it's it's not, it doesn't matter, it's only 5 minutes, and you don't have to fill that time or feel super, I don't know, having to go into a lot of detail or anything. Like it's more chill. Sure. Shall we move on to Catherine's?
Yeah, lovely. So I think Catherine's treated us to a video.
Okay.
So a memorable conversation that I've had that's really helped me was about 6 years ago. and it was with one of my best friends then, and still is one of my best friends now. And it was the first time I disclosed to anyone, any friend, that I was struggling with my mental health. I was really worried that if I told anyone, I'd be seen as crazy and everyone would essentially leave me and would abandon me. And the fact that this friend didn't treat me any differently and said she wasn't going to treat me any differently, and said she was always going to be there, really, really helped, because it really helped me, it really helped lift a lot of weight off my shoulders, because I was obviously really worried that if I ever told anyone, I'd be like chucked to the side and, no one would want to know me. So that was really, really memorable and really helpful for me. Conversation that helps somebody else. On a few occasions, I've received messages or been told that me being open about my mental health has helped them be open with theirs, and help them feel more comfortable with opening up to other people or seeking support. And it made them feel less in the dark.
That's lovely. Thank you, Catherine.
That was good. Do you have any comments to make on that, Katie?
Yeah, what you were saying earlier about horrible people when you're at school is so relatable. And I think it's true for everybody, but I think especially when you're young, there is such a fear around mental health of feeling isolated. And like, if you are honest that you're struggling, that your friends aren't going to think you're fun anymore and you'll be excluded. And I get that. That is a real fear. But Catherine's example there is so lovely, that one of the smallest actions that have the biggest impact is letting your friends know you're not going anywhere. You're their friend, their mental health diagnosis doesn't change anything. And again, about what you were saying, that doesn't mean that you're suddenly their superhero. It doesn't change your role. It just means you're still going to be their friend and you're going to be there for them. And that's so lovely, such a lovely story, and really, I can relate to that one a lot.
Like, we're always, before telling somebody about mental illness and afterwards is, we're still the same people. I still have the same interests, I do the same degree, I do the same job, whatever. We're the same people that we were 5 minutes ago. So, treat us
Nothing
like
should change.
Yes, and I think a lot of people worry that people are just not going to be their friends anymore. But actually, truth is that our generation, especially younger people, are a lot more understanding now of kind of mental health and stuff. And I don't really think that is, that many people now have like significant stigma in our communities, that they'll just completely discard you as a friend. I think that's just something that is more rooted in kind of self-stigma. So what
totally agree.
Other people are going to think about you than what you actually do. So yeah.
Wonderful. Well, time runs quicker than I think it does. So they're all of our examples for today. But Karis and I have been chatting about this topic, and in terms of practical tips and solutions, I think everything we came up with, the biggest and best small action you can take is reaching out. Everything comes under the umbrella of reach out to people, whether that be text, phone call, Instagram, like Karis says, reach out on Instagram, even if it's reacting to someone's story, that is worthwhile. That little ding is nice always. Sending some posts, like I said, about any other ways, Karis, you can think of?
Not sure really. I think you've kind of covered most of it, especially in kind of pandemic situation anyway. Yeah, absolutely. One day we will be able to all go for coffee or something, as with each other. We will be able to go back to school, but not right now. So I think right now the main thing we kind of do is use our phones and check in little and often, and just let people know that you're thinking of them and that they are not completely alone in how they feel and in the lockdown.
If everybody can do one of those today, you will have made us both very, very happy. It's been lovely. Thank you, Caris. It's
You're
gone very speedily. If anybody would like to continue chatting with Caris and I, we would love to talk to you more or answer any questions you've got. Caris is going to share our details now. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Caris.
You're welcome. Thank you, Katie, for organising all this and stuff. So it's been good. Yeah, please do reach out if you do have any questions or anything. I'll be more than happy to answer them online and just connect with more people. If you're feeling lonely, give me a message and I'll add you to my close friends. Fun. But yes, right.
Thank you so much, guys.
Bye.
Bye.